Today you're going to do your first close read by yourself. Over the last few weeks we've done some together. So this is going to walk you through the first reading that you're going to do. And that is designated right here in the directions as step 1. So you're going to read through this article about the Black Death. And the only thing you're going to do this time is just read it. Look for the big idea of the reading. Think about if you had to tell me that somebody wanted but so then summary of it. What's the big idea about the Black Death in this article? And as you read, we've talked about how important it is to understand vocabulary. You're just going to highlight any vocabulary words that you don't know. So you're going to pick one color and highlight them in that color. When you get done with the reading, I want you to get one of your writing utensils, I don't care which color, and work on defining the words that you didn't know. We've done this before where we didn't even really need to get a dictionary out. We were able to figure it out using some context. I'm going to go through and do the first read for you. If you don't want to hear me reading it, you may stop the screencast and then go ahead and do this on your own. Okay. The Black Death. In the Middle Ages, the trade routes brought wealth to cities and towns in Europe. But a deadly disease known as the Black Death also traveled from Asia to Europe along the trade routes and killed millions of people. The sick suffer from fevers, vomiting, and muscle aches. Most are covered with purplish black swellings. Some spit up blood. They are all victims of the Black Death, a plague that spreads quickly from house to house and town to town. The disease's symptoms are disgusting, and its victims smell horrible. There seems to be no cure for the plague. Everyone is frightened. People flee cities trying to escape. Victims are left alone to die. Family members desert one another. Out of every 4 people who catch the disease, 3 die. The few doctors who will treat the sickness wear long black cloaks and leather masks filled with herbs and spices to protect themselves. Although the source of the disease is unknown, many people express opinions about its cause. Astrologers blame the way the planets are lined up. Priests believe God is punishing sinful behavior. Some other people think poisonous gases have been released from inside the earth. Though no one knows what causes the plague, many people offer remedies. Priests urge people to pray and confess their sins. Church bells are rung to drive the plague away. Some doctors recommend the burning of sweet-smelling woods and herbs. Others suggest changing what people eat or how they sleep. For those who can afford it, there are medicines made of gold and pearls. In some areas, the authorities try to clean up the streets and get people to bathe. Others isolate those who are sick. But nothing works. What caused the Black Death? Historians today believe that the most common form of the Black Death was bubonic plague. In the Middle Ages, no one knew that the bubonic plague was caused by bacteria spread by fleas infected by the disease. Fleas feed by sucking the blood from an animal. In medieval towns, there were a lot of rats, and many fleas lived on the bodies of these infected rats. Infected fleas jumped from rats to people, and the fleas then fed on the blood of people and spread the disease. The plague began in Asia in the early 1300s. Rats living on merchant ships carried the disease along trade routes. The ships spread the Black Death throughout Asia and North Africa. In 1347, trade ships carrying the deadly plague arrived in Italy. Soon, the disease spread along the trade routes of Europe to France, Germany, and England. The first outbreak of the plague lasted until the early 1350s. Killing almost 1/3 of Europe's population. It returned every few years for the next 2 centuries. This huge loss of life greatly affected the medieval economy and society. Cities stopped trading with one another to avoid spreading disease. The price of labor and goods rose. Workers became scarce because so many of them had died. Many farms were deserted, and no one harvested the crops. Those who remained on the land demanded higher wages. The church also suffered. When prayers failed to stop the plague, people questioned the church's power. The constant presence of death led some people to say, "Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die." Epidemic. The Black Death was an epidemic, a disease affecting a huge number of people at the same time. Periods of increased contact between people, such as occurred when world trade revived in the Middle Ages, can encourage epidemics. When the first Europeans reached the Americas, they brought diseases to which the people living there had never been exposed. Resulting epidemics killed millions of Native Americans. In 1918 and 1919, 22 million people died during a worldwide influenza epidemic following World War I. This was more than twice the number killed in the war. Epidemics are still a problem today. We have had other epidemics recently. However, they do not become the kind of threat that the Black Death was. Modern medicine is much better at treating epidemics and finding cures than medieval doctors were. Okay, so if you have not yet, you should have highlighted some vocabulary words, and then you're going to use one writing color to define them.